It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin and this is my brother Matt. And today in our first segment, we are talking Omloop Nieuwsblad, both the women's and men's versions, which took place yesterday. In segment 2, we'll review the stage racing from Galicia with a look at O Gran Camino, and we'll recap Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne, which just finished moments ago. Lastly, we'll debut a new sporadically recurring segment that we're calling Two Wheel Two-fers, where we compare and contrast two related pieces of pop cultural ephemera. For the inaugural edition, we're pulling from pre-techno and classic rock as we look at the songs Tour de France by Kraftwerk and Bicycle Race by Queen. And as always, we'll finish out with more adventures in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the races and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 2. The Spring Classics are off to a great start in 2025 with the men's and women's Omloop Nieuwsblad, which took place yesterday in West Flanders. The men's race turned out to be a bit more exciting in the end, but the women's race was not without its drama as well. Matt, the men's race took place first. Let's start there.
Yes, let us indeed. The Spring Classics are upon us. Beyond stoked. It's funny how this is referred to as opening weekend, but everybody in the cycling world is always just kind of like, ha 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 ha. We know this isn't actually opening weekend because we've been watching bike racing for the past month and a half. Nonetheless, it's the opening of the big races. And the men's race was super, super exciting. And a great sort of huge win for Soren Warensgjold of Uno X Mobility. I don't know that it was his first win, but definitely the biggest win of his career. Starting with the pre-race, did you notice the like crazy photography they had going at the pre-race stuff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought all the pre-race stuff that they had, that I could see, that I could watch was actually really, really good. I love the stuff with Matt Stevens. I love when he was like walking up the cobbles and like really got down and showed you what the cobbles look like, and like those things are aggressive, man. Like,
my God, they're it's like why would you lay bricks? It's like they were laid like at a shark's tooth angle or something. You know what I'm saying?
They
Like,
were
that's like
so
erosion
jutting out of the ground. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's got to be like some kind of like erosion or something, because like nobody would lay cobbles like that, or maybe they do because it's more grippy to get up the hill. Like you can kind of.
Maybe. I don't know, dude.
Strange,
It looked like water, kind of erodes through the cracks of it and creates that. But it's very aggressive to think that they're riding their bikes up that. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it looks nasty. Some good pre-race interviews. But yeah, as for the action, I mean, it's just so great to see the guys racing up these bergs over there, and the broadcast did not go from the start, so it came in, I think, as they were sort of getting to the major climbs. A lot of riders with issues. He had Campenarts crashing at a pinch point. Ends up with bike troubles, tire troubles, and just kind of is not there to be much of a help for his new team on his debut with that team, which is Visma Lease Bike.
Very disappointing.
a shame to see that. Um, DeLee had problems. Pidcock had problems.
Yeah, it seemed like all of the big guys outside of maybe Phillipson, I know he was in the mix there at the end, just they just couldn't get it together. I mean, Matteo Jorgensen probably looked the best for Visma. He was up there with Tish Benut most of the day and was kind of in the mix towards the end. But Wout ended up in that second group back from the group that kind of contested the win, and it was a
No,
pretty.
well, no, you got that wrong. Like it all came back together in the end. Like it was a massive bunch sprint at the end. Wout just wasn't there. I mean, Wout got like sixth or something like that.
Oh,
um,
I didn't. I thought
he
he
what
was.
he
I thought he was in the second group back.
no. That the groups got back together with like 4Ks to go. But yeah, he just I don't know. Wout just wasn't there really the whole race. It seemed like he was. They had some positioning issues towards the beginning, and then yeah, he just wasn't sort of watching all the moves and everything. I mean, rolling into the final K, he was like way off to the side and like, 12th, 15th wheel back when all the other guys that were there at the very end were bunched up at the front. Um, Phillipson also, he just seems off this year. Like he
He seemed like
is
he went too soon.
yeah, he completely mistimed his bike throw and was like he was had totally slowed down by the time the other two hit the line. Um, yeah, but out
But
of this, we got a great new winner with Warren Scold. Um,
well, and talk about a great week that Uno X is having. I mean, for a team that can really use wins, like they've had a great week. We'll talk. We talk more about O Gran Camino in the next segment, but they've had an awesome week, man. Like, multiple wins. They've been all over the front of all these races. I don't know. Good for them, dude. I love when smaller teams, pull out big wins.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. And then there in second, you had that guy Paul Meunier from Soudal Quickstep, who's sort of been all over the place like this whole opening of the season. Of course, he got a stage win in one of the stage races from a couple weeks ago, um, and he was right there. I mean, he was throwing the bike same time as Warren Skjold, and was just a couple of inches behind him. Um, so yeah, I mean, quick step. Obviously, they've had this big pivot in recent years from this like just absolute juggernaut of the spring classics to more of a stage racing team because of their boy Remco. I mean, their team is pretty much all in for Remco at this point. Um, but uh, Manier is sort of reviving their classics focus, which is interesting. It's nice to see that team, have a little bit of a new lease on life when it comes to sprinting and spring classics. Because that team had one of the I think the greatest season of any team in terms of number of wins, like 2 or 3 seasons ago. I mean, they had something like 80 something wins as a team, like
That's
in one season. It's
crazy.
completely nuts. Um, so yeah, yeah. So good on Warren Scold. Good on Uno X for pulling out a massive win and a great start to the season. You wanna pivot over to the women's side?
Yeah, on the women's side, we have maybe the best name of a rider to win. Like, come on, a lot of class.
A lot of class, and she
Yeah,
had
a
a lot
lot
of
of
class today.
class. She
Mhm.
won on a 2-woman breakaway. Um, it looked like it was going to be one of those demi-vollering wins. This is like what it was ramping up to be, and then all of a sudden, those two got away and stayed away, and the peloton never had a chance to catch them. They were able to get enough distance and enough of a lead out to be able to take it the whole way, which was really great. Another, I love, again, kind of similar to the men's race. It's cool to see somebody that I don't really know win this kind of big race and really stamp their name on pro cycling. So it was neat. I thought of a couple. There's some stuff I want to get into about some stuff that was said after the race that I found pretty interesting as well. But what did you think of the race itself?
Well, a little bit of a correction. The two of them did not break away. They were part of a four-woman breakaway group for a while, but then they were able to split off the front of that, and like the other two could not stay with them at all. By the way, we're excuse me, we're talking about Arella Nurlo is the Polish rider that came in second that broke away with a lot of class. Um, the you said that the peloton never had a chance of catching him. This is what I'll say. Excuse me. SD Works blew it big time. SD Works and FDJ. Because Vollering definitely could have won this. She easily won the sprint for third because it was her and Puck Peters sprinting for third. But why in the world did the peloton let that breakaway get it? It was at 14 minutes at one point, like 14 minutes, and you're trying to control for your sprinter. SD Works. You're trying to control for Lorena Vivas, who she won the bunch sprint that came in for fifth. But that is not the way to do it. Letting the breakaway get out there to 14 minutes at one point. So they pretty much blew it. As for the race itself, I was disappointed seeing Newadoma not up to the task like on the Bergs. She was sort of in the mix there, but like once they started hitting the big climbs, she couldn't hang with Vollering and Peters.
No, she got like when she got like when she let them get ahead of her. Like they gapped her. I mean, those two took off, and she just didn't even look like she was, racing the same race.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's sort of these two sorts of top riders. Um, you got the ones who seem like you got the Pogachars who he's just going to win and win and win. Like he's on form and he stays on form all year long. It seems like there's others that are just not there in the beginning of the season. It takes a while for them to like come into form, and I think I hope that is the case with Newadoma. I mean, I hope she's just like a slow build. Now she won Flesh last year, which is going to be just in a couple of weeks or a month or so. So I don't know. Strange to see her just like not doing it. Nonetheless, some good action. And the win for for a lot of classes is great because it is her first professional win. She got like a second place in like the Ruta del Sol. I think she was 14th in the Tour de France last year overall. So she's not a top tier rider, second tier for sure. So this is huge for her, and it's always just one of the things I love about cycling. It's just like when you get a chance to see these people that get their first time win, and it's just you just feel so happy for them because we know what a grueling sport it is, and what it must be like. I mean, when you're a basketball player, even if your team sucks, like you're gonna get wins. You're gonna get to experience winning basketball games and stuff like that. But for some of these riders, it's just like you never ever get to experience what it's like to be the winner on that particular day. So especially when somebody comes up in a big race like this, it's very, very gratifying. You can't help but be happy for them. So what did you want to say about the from the post-race interview?
So after the race, I thought it was pretty interesting. FDJ and SD Works kind of trading words. So after the race, Lorena Wiebes said that they were waiting for Demi Vollering and their team to seize control of the race. Kind of good plays into what you were saying earlier. Why would they wait? Like, why wouldn't you just get in there and put yourselves in position?
Yeah, she's just
Vollering,
making excuses. She's just
I
making excuses. Like, and she
totally
does that
agree.
all the time.
Totally
She
agree.
does that all the time.
Vollering said, but I also didn't think it was necessary. This is a quote. I also don't think it was necessarily up to us to control. There were enough teams with sprinters who also benefited from closing the gap. I even thought at times that my teammates were going too fast, and I even wanted them to slow down a bit. You can't go too fast too early in the season. Then they kept looking at you in future races, and I think everyone was a bit afraid of that. Again, I think just it goes exactly what you just said. Excuse making about not being, you know, again, you let the peloton get that far behind. It makes it very hard for them to catch up, and you get what happened yesterday, where you get the or not the solo breakaway, but the group breakaway so far ahead that there's no chance of bringing them back again. Doesn't matter how fast the peloton's riding.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vollering's point is a little bit more salient than Beavis's. I think she's kind of right. I mean, those sprint teams are the ones that really should have been taking the helm, because that is a race that will come down to a sprint if it's managed properly. Um, and so I put the sprint teams a little bit more at fault. At the same time, FDJ also, like, once it got out to, however, at some point FDJ should have been on it, like, okay, if they're not going to do it, like, we want our rider in with a chance. I don't know. See, that's a tougher call to make, because it's like, okay, so FDJ goes to the front, they start pulling, and they pull it all back, and then all the sprint teams are like, sweet, thanks for the ride, like, so it's a tougher call for the sprinting teams. No excuse.
Yep. No, I'm with you. Do you have anything else on this one? Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, we'll be right back talking about some more racing. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the races and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 3. Team Visma Lisa Bike not only opted not to defend their 2-time O Gran Camino title with team superstar Jonas Vingegaard, but not to defend the title at all. The team was not on the start line in Galicia, and many of the top teams from the Pro Peloton did likewise. Nonetheless, riders from Movistar, Groupama FDJ, Israel Premier Tech, Uno X Mobility, and Soudal Quickstep were there and out for results in this recent addition to the World Tour stage racing calendar. Meanwhile, in Belgium, at Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne, a big name finally got the big win that he's been thus far shut out of this year. Matt, disaster avoided?
I would say so. This was certainly the biggest weekend for Jasper, the disaster Philipsen. He participated in the UAE Tour, in which he got completely blanked, did not get a win in UAE Tour behind Jonathan Milan and Tim Merlier. He really looked to be like nowheresville this year. In fact, I even made that comment when we were talking about Omloop in our previous segment. He just doesn't seem to have it, even though he's managed to stay like right up front. So I would say, yeah, disaster avoided. If he came out of opening weekend without anything, having not gotten anything at UAE Tour as well, I'd say that would be a pretty big disaster. So he kind of got a big one, at least for his mentality, I would think. Although, to be honest, like, he got an absolutely perfect lead out from an incredible sprinter in his own right, Caden Groves. If he didn't get that lead out, does he win here? I don't know. But yeah, I think Coy kind of messed up too. But what are your thoughts?
I think it's a good win for him. I think it's a much needed win. You had Merlier and Milan both in this race, so neither of them were a factor in the end. So I don't know. I think, I don't know if Visma peeled off a little too soon for him. He seemed to be out of position most of the end of the race up until the very end when he was on Jasper's wheel, but you know, the little hesitation there at the end, you know, in the middle of the lead out from Caden probably was the factor, because when you watch the overhead shot, you could see that, I mean, Jasper was a full bike length ahead of him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like Coy may have been moving a tiny bit faster when Jasper crossed the line, but it seemed to me like Jasper got up out of the saddle a second or two before Olav Koy, and I think that definitely made a difference. I think had Koy been out of the saddle and really pushing as hard as he could on the pedals as Jasper stood up, um, it's a photo finish.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he wins, but it's a photo finish, because he did not stand until he saw Jasper stand. I think that was a big difference. But we're splitting hairs. Coy already got at least one win this year. Not as big as Omloop for sure. But here's the question. So you look at the dominance of Merlier and Milan in UAE, including the sprint of the year from Tim Merlier, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that thing was stunning in that final stage at UAE. With this win, are you kind of like, yep, those are still the big three, and any one of those three guys could win on any given day? Because I don't feel that way. I still feel like it's like Jasper's still in third. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's so tough to say, because you go back 2 years and I would say that he was ahead of those guys. And it's so early in the year to say, you know, I don't know. I'd like to see them all, three of them, in a heads up, you know, sprint where they're all in position, when they all have good lead outs, and see how it goes. Because I'm sorry, dude, if Coy and McClay could easily have the same dynamic as, you know, Phillips and Caden Groves, you know, any one of them in any of those positions, you know, I could see them winning. I think those are definitely the best four sprinters in, you know, in the pro peloton right now. I don't think that there's anybody better than those four. And I think on any given day, any of them can win. Do I think that oh God, I guess I do. I mean, I guess I have to put Merlier and Milan ahead of Olav Koy. So I don't know. Let's see how the year unfolds.
Well, speaking of sprinting, in the other race we're talking about today, the O Gran Camino, not nearly as exciting as the two sprints we've seen in the past 2 days over in Belgium. They were pretty much mopped up with ease by Magnus Cort Nielsen of Uno X Mobility, who took away the green jersey as well in that race. But the overall win is going to our boy Derek G from Israel Premier Tech. We love Derek G, such a sweetheart, and this is his first big stage race win, and he did it in emphatic fashion. I mean, he looked good throughout the whole race, and when it came time to defend, he defended big time.
Every question asked, every question answered, as far as that was concerned. Great win for G. I had there's two things about this race that like are very much sticking out in my mind that I want to discuss real fast. I thought that it was shot beautifully in places and horribly in others. So the first stage, the tracking shot of the sprint from the side, utter perfection.
I thought incredible.
That was so awesome.
I mean, like, it's a shame. It's good and bad. Like, so at the very beginning of the clip, you see Magnus, like his whole bike, but within like 2 seconds, he's behind that barrier. So you're only seeing the top half. And that looks kind of cool too. It would be better if you were seeing his whole body throughout the whole thing, but you know, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
It's still an absolutely amazing shot, but the part that I really loved is towards the end when like the crowd comes in and the way it's like flashing by, it looks like an impressionistic painting. Like it's so painterly and just so aesthetically pleasing. I mean, what a great shot. So I'm right there with you on that.
More of that for sure. Now, juxtapose that with the camera work at the end of stage, I think it's 4. Where the cameraman like the camera's at such a weird angle already, and then it's zoomed in to catch them coming up like around the bend to the finish, and they don't get pulled out far enough to be able to see who crossed the finish line first. So you're completely like 4 minutes without knowing who won, and eventually in that stage, Sergio Schumel gets the win at the line. G, loses, but gets the yellow. But it took 4 minutes to figure out like any idea of who had won that stage because you couldn't see the finish line on the camera.
And I don't believe we ever got a actual photo finish shot. And I Googled that. Like I looked around to find a photo finish shot a day later. I could not find anything. So I don't know what the deal was with that. But speaking of Shamil, like really cool to see a Guatemalan guy. I've never heard of a Guatemalan rider ever. Like, and he wins a stage in this big race. Like, really cool for that guy. Let's stay on the topic of the aesthetics here. Another thing about that opening stage sprint that I wanted to mention. Once they're behind the barriers, they literally ride past the line of every single team bus in the race. And so you get like you see every team bus, like what a perfect backdrop. And there's like a really cool, like you could take a really cool still shot when like Magnus is in front of the Uno X bus, it just like looks so cool. But the one I really liked is, we've talked about it already, Pulti Cometa, how much I love this kit. And there's a beautiful shot. They have two riders in the front. In the beginning of that sprint, two other guys are out in front, and you see them with their team bus behind them. I'm going to have to pull a still on that and put it on the wall or something. I absolutely loved that particular shot. And then on stage 3, I believe.
I have some notes on this one too.
You had the drone shot when they would go across they would take off and they would go across that like ancient bridge. That bridge must be 800 years old or something. And you would get this amazing drone shot on that. It would sort of peel off and take in the rest of the city with each rider. Amazing. I was watching it like I was doing other work and I just had it on silent. So I let it run the whole thing. And it's a TT. So, especially in the early stages, they're going to be cutting away to aerial shots like all the time.
Right.
And it was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous, that area.
Like I said, really, really weird. I felt like one of the better shots, especially for like a smaller race, one of the better shot races that, I've seen all year. And then, you just had that awful camera work on that mountain finish. So, maybe it was because it was a remote location. It was tight. Who knows? But man, like what a disservice to the broadcast to have that was a shame. A spot where you can't, like, how do you not have a dedicated camera on the line?
Yeah. Very, very, very weird. Another piece of aesthetics that I liked this time, stage 2, where Magnus Cort gets his second in a row stage win. Two things about this. Number one, the surface of the road that they were sprinting on at the very finish, it was literally like foot wide or like 18-inch wide, like gray paving stones that had they were all square. So just a completely different look of a road surface to be sprinting on than you normally see. And then I don't know if you took a close look at that picture that I put in the show notes. Did you see that?
I looked at the picture, but now I want to look at it again so I can see
pull it up.
Oh yeah, that is a weird surface to sprint on.
But also look at Magnus Cort's shoe covers. Like, what in the world is going on Magnus Cort's feet?
What's going on Magnus Cort entirely in this photo with the Michael Jordan tongue thing too?
This guy's look, he's got the mustache, but and then that also brings up another point. Have you noticed how like for a couple of years there, it was socks were just white. It was just like white shoes, white socks, nothing on them. Now teams are starting to put stripes on. Visma Lease a Bike this weekend had some kind of stripe situation on their socks. And if you look at Magnus Cort socks, he's got the cool like yellow stripe with the Uno X logo on the side.
Yeah.
And then he's got those just bizarro world. They look like like clogs. They look like Dutch little Dutch wooden clogs, like pointy toed. Totally wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. Love that dude though. God,
they
Magnus Cort.
Yeah, he was great, and he was so in control of this thing the entire time. It was ridiculous. Like all of his stages, like it was a foregone conclusion. Like
Hmm.
nobody was beating him.
He looks
So
strong.
good
Yeah.
race. Glad to see Derek G with the big W there.
So awesome. On that note, we'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
This week, we are premiering a new sporadically recurring segment that we're calling Two Wheel Two-fers. And here's how it works. We'll take two pop cultural items that are in some way related, and we compare and contrast them. And while it doesn't necessarily have to be cycling related, we've decided for this, our inaugural segment, we'd tie it in with cycling somehow. And so without further ado, let's talk about the classic 1983 song Tour de France from German techno pioneers Kraftwerk and Bicycle Race from British hard rock icons Queen, the fun-loving 1978 song which Freddie Mercury allegedly wrote after watching stage 18 of the 1978 Tour de France. Matt, where shall we begin?
Well, let's begin firstly with just a little bit broadening of the concept here with Two Wheel Two-fers. It doesn't always have to be about cycling. Initially our idea was, hey, let's talk about two albums. Like that was the kernel of the idea, where we would compare and contrast two albums, and then we sort of broadened it out so that it doesn't always have to be that. So it could be, talking about two albums that are in some way related, or it could be two movies that are in some way related, or two whatevers, two automobiles that came out in 1978 that are somehow related. It doesn't matter. Um, but it's going to be a recurring thing. We'll probably do it like once a quarter, something like that, 4 times a year. And it will come in very helpful, I'd imagine, in the slower times of the year. So that said, let's roll with Kraftwerk Tour de France. So if you don't know anything about this band, Kraftwerk is like a German, like pre-techno. They're basically like the pioneers of the entire like techno genre. They were early adopters of the Mini Moog synthesizer, which our brother owns one.
Yes, he is. Yes, he does.
Crazy. And they basically pioneered the entire genre, and this song is a perfect example. It came out a little later. I mean, they were doing stuff like in the mid 70s, this band. This song is from 83, but it's sort of a great encapsulation of what this band is about. It's just a very simple song. It's just got a couple of elements, a straightforward beat, some synthesizer sounds, and then some sort of chanted lyrics. Basically, I mean, that's the whole song, and it kind of repeats and repeats, which is the point. It's a vibe.
It
So
gets in you. It gets right into your brain, man. It's like, it. There's something about the way that it starts with that, like, dum, dum, and it's like you get the sense of the rider like pumping. You know what I
yes,
mean? And it starts, but then it just gets it hits that part that kind of goes through the whole song, and you just like it. At first you're like, what is this? But then after a few listens, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm into it. Yeah, yeah.
and you could definitely see, like, just putting this song on a loop and cycling to it, like it's like the right beat, like for just like cruising along for sure. So yeah, in that regard, it's cool how they made the song itself sort of mimic the subject matter of the song. That's a great point. Um, then the chanting over it is just like German something something Tour de France, Tour de France, Tour de France. Like I should have looked it up what that means or something.
Well, they
Um,
definitely they mentioned the Tourmalet. It's a lot of like iconic Tour de France, places.
mhm. And
Excuse me.
And as you mentioned in the intro, the Queen song that we're going to be discussing next was inspired by a Tour de France stage in particular, um, and this one, obviously, it's called Tour de France. It's inspired by the Tour de France. I just love that this iconic bike race has this cultural footprint where you know people are writing songs because they're inspired by this bike race. Like top level artists and stuff like that. Which I find that wonderful. Um, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on with both of these songs is the videos because they both have awesome videos in their own way. um, the video for Tour de France by Kraftwerk, it's just like old cycling footage the whole time. It's old cycling. Although I read somewhere that there's a version of the video where you see the guys in Kraftwerk cycling around like wherever the town was where they were
Recording it.
recording it or something like that. So there's footage out there of the actual band on bikes, which I still need to seek out. But anytime you got old black and white footage of old bike races, like sign me up. I'm all in for that stuff. It just puts me in my happy place to see that. So having that for the video, like running under that music is just like, yeah, just there's something about it's a great combination, the old and the new, and you know, I also like how going back to the sort of sonic quality of it, like you were talking about how it opens up with that beat. I like how that beat does not sound like a drum kit. Like that is clearly like an electronic beat. It's almost industrial. Like it's like a
Yeah.
and
But it
that's
sounds it it mimics breathing in a way that really really works. It I don't know, man. It
yeah,
like
the downbeat sound is like
yeah,
it's like a kind of
yeah,
sound, which is super cool.
very very
Um,
cool.
so
Um so
go ahead.
you'd started to mention that, these songs are kind of revolving around, the artist's passion for watching the Tour de France. I think it's interesting that, you know, both of these songs are kind of written in the same era. They're only a few years apart as far as that. And the Kraftwerk song kind of ties into, when many episodes ago where we talked about Greg LeMond, because that was like right in that era. So it was '83 when the song came out. So if we're looking at the '83 Tour de France, that's Laurent Fignon, and then '84, it's the big one with LeMond.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think it's interesting. That must have been a great era for cycling, in general. It must have just been a good, because obviously, TV, cable, all that stuff is getting, bigger and bigger and bigger during that time. So, more things are being broadcast. And I just think it's interesting that both of these bands, connected with cycling in the same kind of time frame, which I thought was really neat.
It's probably also a reflection, like that influence bleeding into other areas is a reflection of like the strides that were being made in terms of like live broadcasting and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That things were starting to become like much more available and ubiquitous within the larger culture. I just watched the movie September 5. Um, do you know about that movie? It's about the Munich Olympics where the PLO or whatever the Palestinian group took took the Israeli hostages. There's been a lot of media about this. Um, there's a documentary film called I think it's called One Day in September, and then Steven Spielberg, of course, famously directed the
Munich.
movie Munich. I've seen both of those. I just watched this, and it was about the broadcast, the ABC broadcast team, the sports broadcast team that was already on hand to do the Olympics, and how they sort of took over the coverage of this like breaking, crazy terrorist event. Um, but uh, that was also, that was in the 70s, and a big part of that was how like live live sporting and live media was sort of it was right in the time when they were able to broadcast stuff live to like the entire world.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
and so, let's move into the Queen, because Freddie Mercury wrote this while watching the Tour de France. I don't gather that Mercury was a giant Tour de France fan. I think the band was laid up in France recording an album, and it just happened by pure coincidence that the Tour de France was going past the little town where they were staying. And so he heard through the grapevine, oh, this race is going on. So, maybe he wandered out there and watched it go by or whatever, and then came home and was like, oh, I think I'll write a song about it. Um, I don't think he was necessarily a giant fan. I have no idea. I'm speculating, but my guess would be that he wasn't a giant fan. And yet, at the same time, still, this great race is able to inspire something, in this guy to write this very bizarre song. Let's talk about Bicycle Race.
So they were they were they literally watched the stage go by in Montreux, stage 18 in 1978. Eventual winner Bernie Hinault.
Bernie,
So yeah, there's obviously a lot more on this one than there was on the other song, but to me it's like you got to talk about this video, man. The video for this song is crazy because, first off, it's 1978. Music videos are not prevalent yet. Well, this is pre MTV era, so I mean, a lot of this stuff, I don't even know how it gets out to people, to be honest with you. But they make this very controversial video in the Wimbledon, stadium, and it's essentially dozens of nude women on bicycles.
It's crazy. It's at Wembley Stadium. They rented out Wembley freaking Stadium to put 45 naked chicks on bikes. Like, there's something so joyful about this. I mean, I absolutely adore this thing. Like, it's crazy. It's unhinged. Um, and yet there's just something that is just so fantastic about it, that everybody just looks like they're having so much fun. It's so refreshing to see something where like the nudity is like not sexualized in a way. Maybe it is. I mean, I'm sure it is for many viewers or whatever, but I don't know. There's just like a 1970s playfulness, like naturalistic thing happening there. How about the middle of the song when all the music cuts out and they just go to like a ensemble of the bike bells that are on the bikes, and it's like ring ring ring. I mean,
Ring. Yeah.
so bizarre. Like, I just, everything about this, I love it so much. And honestly, I don't think it's that great of a song.
No, it's
The
not.
song is just a mess. But I mean, the song is so like bombastic, and I mean, some of the lyrics are just nuts. He's making references, like these pop cultural references. He says Jaws was never my scene, and I don't like Star Wars.
Yeah. But it's weird looking back on it, 40 years later, and you're just like, whoa, man, this is like such a wild, bizarre song. Obviously, it's a B-side song. It was never meant to be, one of their bigger songs, but it was, I don't know. It's very interesting. One other note about the video, that just one little nugget that I thought was really funny, is that nobody really knew what they were doing, and they rented all these bikes. And when the people that they rented the bikes from found out what they had done, they made them buy all the bike seats.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. That's ridiculous. I'm glad you mentioned that it was a B-side, because this is another sort of curious part of this whole thing, is that it's the B-side to the much, much, much more famous Queen song, Fat Bottom Girls. And I just also find that funny. I mean, talk about twofers. I mean, there's a strange twofer. It's like both of the songs reference the other songs. Like, I've never heard of anything like this with a band where they're like, we're going to put out an A side, but it's also coming with this B side. They're both totally distinctive. They are in conversation with each other. Um, and like at one point in the video, in the bicycle race video, or no, in the song Bicycle Race, when they mention Fat Bottom Girls, I think there's like, I think they show you see like the album cover or something like that for Fat Bottom Girls, which is also sort of iconic in its own way.
Right. So it is. What's funny about it is that it's obviously a drawing of a woman nude on a bike from the back where you see her
Mhm.
butt, and then they painted on the bathing suit on her bottom, and
Right.
so that is the back side, or the that's how they censored it, so to speak. But it's just
Right.
a neat. It was just a neat way
I
of
think that's a
putting it.
still image. I think that's a still image from like one of the chicks in the video.
Oh man, okay. I thought it was a
Yeah.
drawing. So,
Well,
but
no,
they
no, I'm saying
definitely
no.
added in the underwear.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a drawing. I think they just sort of like cropped out like a single photo of like of a single woman from that video to get that image. But nonetheless, absolutely the song, whatever, I can take it or leave it. Like, I mean, I love it that it's about biking and everything like that. But it's a bizarre song. But the video for sure. If you've not seen it, check it out. And thank you, by the way, for sending me the uncensored version, which is really hardly any different from the censored
No, it's
version, I
really
guess.
not.
Like it's so watch the uncensored one if you can find it.
Quite
It's
quite
it's just
tastefully
fun.
done in general.
Yeah.
For dozens of nude women on bicycles, it was done quite tastefully.
Yeah, yeah. And that that actually one last thing I'll mention, we got to wrap this up though. I have actually attended a bicycling event that features nude women. Or semi nude women, and that is the annual Critical Tits Ride at Burning Man.
I
So
was gonna say it's got to be Burning Man.
yeah, look up Critical Tits sometime if you want to see some more joy at semi nude women on bikes. Yeah.
On that note, we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to take another ride in the Broom Wagon. Matt, what do you got for us this week?
All right, so this week I am just going to put on public record my Oscar picks. I'm very, very excited for the Academy Award ceremony tonight, which begins at 7 o'clock on Hulu, if you care to watch, and ABC, I think. So I'm going to give you my will wins and should wins predictions.
All right.
So for Best Picture, I hate to say this, I think Wicked is going to win. I really could care less about that movie. I struggled through the first 45 minutes and it does nothing for me. Um,
It's visually stunning. I mean, it is
yeah,
very, very well done from a visual standpoint.
agreed, but I don't feel like it's breaking new ground per se. What should win? Nickel Boys. This film is incredible. Like I finally caught up with this thing. I've been trying to watch it for months, and it's incredible. This is like a whole new kind of filmmaking, and I was stunned by it. Um, for Best Actress, I think Demi Moore is going to get the win for The Substance. I think the Academy is going to give it to the long running actress. I think who should win is Fernanda Torres from I'm Still Here, a movie which I haven't seen, but every single one of my critics is in unison saying this is the best performance of the year. For Best Actor, I think they're going to give it to old Timothée Chalamet. I think the Oscar voting was in before he made his crazy speech at the Screen Actors Guild Award last Sunday. Um, but who I think should win is Rafe Fiennes from Conclave, who it's an incredible performance. It's so nuanced. It's insane. Best supporting actress. I think they're giving it to Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez, and I think that will only award that movie gets the entire night. As to who should win, I don't know. That it's a dead heat for the rest of them. And best supporting actor, Kieran Culkin. Real Pain. I love the performance. I think he's going to get it. It's looking like it's going that way. And I'm sort of feeling the same way as I do with supporting actress. I'm not sure who should win. I think Culkin is as good as any of the rest of them. Um, who should have been nominated in this category? Clarence Divine I. Macklin. Saying this guy was a non-professional actor. He steals the entire movie. He's incredible. Um, definitely catch up with that movie. And for best director, I think it's gone to Sean Baker. I'm perfectly fine with that because I love Sean Baker. I've loved his movie. Who I think should win, however, Brady Corbet for the list, which I've already spoken about on this podcast, and who I think should have been nominated in this category. Once again, Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys. That movie's incredible. It is breaking some serious news. Must watch. There you have it. My 2025 Oscar picks.
Nice. Well, I have two things. Both will be pretty quick. The first thing I wanted to say is, about revisiting old albums, like from your past. Throughout the research this week, doing our Two Wheel Two-fers first time and kind of deep diving on those. I'm a big fan of listening to my station on Apple Music, which kind of kicks back things that, are from my personal echo chamber of music. And it kicked me out an old Indigo Girls song from Nomads, Indians, and Saints, The Southland in the Springtime. And I was like, ooh, man, it really hit me. So I went back and I listened to that album, and I was just like, man, it's so cool to go back and listen to an album that you're so very familiar with, that you connect with from a younger time, and then you listen to it again as, in an older age, and you take a whole different kind of set of perspective from that music, because now you've experienced different things in your life, and so you're taking different things from it. So I encourage everyone out there. I love music, and I think music is so important, to everything in your life, to the kind of that balance, and it's the soundtrack of your spin around the, your time on, your time that you get. So revisit old albums. Take something new from them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about and just kind of mention is I have been, this week I've been pretty wrapped up. My partner at work, her son is a star athlete in high school. He is the wide receiver on the football team. He is, the point guard on the basketball team, and they won their conference championship this week, where they had to, they played 3 games pretty successfully over the last 3 to get into the final game at the Peterson Event Center at Pitt. And they ended up winning their section. And let me tell you, it was so much fun to root these kids on and like watch it unfold and watch it, how it affected the, Dana, who I work with. And it was so cool. If you get a chance, enjoy some high school sports, because let me tell you, there's nothing more pure than, young kids, that are before they're jaded, being able to enjoy the love of the game. And it's been a really, really fun week. So, if you get a chance, follow some high school sports. That awesome. Is it for me. And that is all for this week. Join us next week for our full analysis of the action of the White Rocks of Tuscany, with our reviews of the women's and men's editions of Strada Bianchi, as well as an in-depth look at UAE Team Emirates, the giant of the men's peloton that seems set to destroy everything in its path this season. Until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon on another ride beyond the slipstream. Allez!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Allez!